All right, hi guys, Chef Shelly here. If we're just meeting for the first time, I am a personal chef, and when I'm not cooking for my own clients, I help other passionate home cooks become personal chefs so they can pursue their passion and get paid to cook too. So today I'm talking about a cookbook. This is Cook's Country's One Pan Wonders, fuss-free meals for your sheet pan, Dutch oven, skillet, roasting pan, casserole, and slow cooker. So, if this is interesting to you and you have other friends who like to cook, feel free to share this out. Share it like my 9-year-old does with a cold he picks up from school and passes to the whole entire family. So, cooking. You cook, you love to cook, you know yourself, and you know your equipment better than any cookbook knows for you. So there are times, when you try a new recipe and you substitute something, or you don't have something so you leave it out and then it sucks. And you're like, yeah, I screwed that up. It'd probably be better if I would have cooked it right. But then if there's a recipe and you're like, wow, there is way too much of that ingredient, or it goes straight from saute on the stove to take it out of the oven, and you're like, whoa, preheat the oven, put it in the oven, where was that, why am I, and you know that the recipe just isn't written right or written well enough. So this is going to be all about know yourself, grasshopper. Feel the force move through you. That's right, that's a mixed genre metaphor there for you. Just hang in there with me, we'll get there. So this is a cookbook by Cook's Country. Cook's Country is part of Cook's Illustrated and America's Test Kitchen. And I love them. I drink all the Kool-Aid. I think 98.452% of the time, their recipes are spot on. And I also don't need any more cookbooks. I have a billion cookbooks. I have cookbooks I've cooked to death. I have cookbooks I've never cooked anything from. French laundry cookbook. So I don't need any more cookbooks, but I was at Barnes & Noble picking up a cookbook for a client who wanted to try some recipes on this new diet that they wanted from this specific cookbook. So I went to pick it up, and as I'm walking through, I see a clearance table of cookbooks. And I'm like, I don't need any more cookbooks. So I keep walking, and then out of the corner of my eye, I see the Cook's Illustrated logo, and it was like, and park. And I looked over the cookbooks, and after I got pissed off that they had a bunch of Cook's Illustrated cookbooks I had that I'd paid a lot more for, I saw this Cook's Country one. And One Pot Wonders. And I'm like, One Pan Wonders. I know that it's a thing. It's all popular now, the one pan thing. We all love to cook. Cleaning's a beating. Let's make it all so we don't have any dishes to do after, and it'll be wonderful. And then I was really torn. The picture was so, it just totally appealed to me. And I know they put the best picture on there. And I know I probably hadn't had lunch. And I know, as my husband would say, that's how they get ya. But you know what? So they got me. They got me. It was less than $10. I got it. So this is going to be about some recipes I tried from here and what happened. I tried a whole slew of recipes. The first one I did was classic chicken and rice with peas and carrots. It was a one pot on the stove dish, and it was boneless, skinless chicken breasts. And even when you saute them first until they're golden, sauteed boneless, skinless chicken breasts and rice can be super bland. And all this had for seasoning in it was garlic and crushed red pepper. So it was a little bland. But the big bummer was I followed the recipe and the rice was kilt, just dead. And I'm not saying I want my rice crunchy, but this was like where the rice is so overcooked, it's just like mush, and it's just not very appealing at all. So the second one I did was curried chicken with coconut rice and lime yogurt sauce. And this was a 9 by 13 in the oven. And I thought, okay, this has got to have more flavor. I mean, it's got curry in it. Curry has like 5 million spices in it. The flavor's in the name. Plus, the rice was cooked in coconut milk, so even more flavor and richness too. So I figured this one's got to be a hit. And it was cooked in the oven, so I thought it might do a little better than being cooked on the stove and with the overcooking. So it did have a little cheat in it. It calls for you to cook the oil and the spices and the garlic in the microwave first. And even though that's not technically another pot, that is making more dishes. But that's a little nitpicky. So anyway, I cooked it in the oven and the rice cooked for 25 to 30 minutes. And then you put the chicken in and finish it off, and guess what? The rice was totally overcooked. So it also shockingly did not have as much flavor as I would have thought for what it had in it. But I have to tell you that lime yogurt sauce, Ermagerd, it was awesome. It was worth having a mediocre dish just to get to that yogurt lime sauce. I had it for the rest of the week. If you know Frank's Red Hot, their tagline is, I put that beep on everything. They're clearly saying a swear word. In case you're listening in front of your kids, we'll just pre-beep it. But anyway, so I literally put that beep on everything for the rest of the time I had it, till it was gone. So next, get that picture out there, was the recipe from the cover. Lime, ginger, chicken, and rice with edamame, carrots, and shiitakes. And isn't it annoying when they feel the need to put every ingredient into the title of the recipe? That doesn't necessarily make it more appetizing. But anyway, so this one actually kicked it up a notch in the flavor department because it was cooked with lime zest, fresh garlic, a lot of fresh garlic, and a lot of fresh ginger. And then you finish it with the lime juice, a whole tablespoon of sesame oil, and soy sauce. So it really kicked it up a little bit in the flavor department, and that was good. And by this time, I was starting to figure it out, and I cut the cooking time short before the rice got killed, just when the chicken was done cooking, because it did not need the extra cooking time. Another thing about the recipes in here with the rice, we like rice, don't get me wrong, dude, it made a buttload of rice. These are supposed to be 4-serving recipes. We would have rice left over for days from these recipes. Finally, or next to finally, this one I was super excited about. My mom made a dish like this when I was growing up. This is baked shrimp with feta and tomatoes and orzo. So I figured we'll move on to a pasta instead of the rice, and maybe that'll do better. But it was pasta cooked in the oven. So it called for extra large shrimp, 20 to 25 per pound size. So I couldn't do it. I'm not going to lie to you. I couldn't do it. I knew no matter what I did, that shrimp was going to be overcooked. And the orzo was either going to be killed or it was going to be crunchy because the shrimp was cooked and the orzo wasn't. And once it's all stirred together, there's no way you're going to save either part of it. So I used pre-cooked shrimp. And I cooked the orzo in the oven until it was done perfectly. And then I took it out, stirred the shrimp in it, and let it just heat the shrimp up. And it was perfect. And it was good. I did like that one because of the secret ingredient. It had saffron in it. Super good. I love saffron. So finally, by the time I got to roasted chicken with root vegetables, I was done. I altered this up one side and down the other. I didn't have the Brussels and carrots, and my husband wouldn't eat Brussels anyway, so I wanted to use broccoli, which I knew there was no way in hell that by the time potatoes and chicken were done, the broccoli was going to be mush. So I dressed the potatoes, put them in the oven, rubbed the chicken with the oil, which had garlic and fresh thyme in it, and I added lemon zest, and that really made a difference. Put it in the oven, and then with about 5 or 10 minutes left, then I put the broccoli in, and it was all done perfectly together. The only bummer about this one was it called to be cooked at 475, which is hot. That is definitely roasting, not baking temp. And it called to be on the upper middle rack. Your oven generally has 5 racks. There's the middle rack, which usually you cook on, and then there's the upper middle before the one on top that you broil. So between $4.75 and the upper middle rack, the garlic on the chicken got a little scorched. And that's a bummer because, you know, there's no scraping it off and having it not taste like it. But I do have to say this was the winner. My husband went crazy. He loved it. He is a huge fan of crispy chicken skin, and this delivered. Plus, potatoes cooked in a little chicken fat, delish, and it had a little bit of butter in it, so that was great too. Overall, this was definitely the winner. So, when it comes to why was the rice overcooked, why was this stuff not working, the big takeaway is you know your cooking and you know your equipment more than the cookbook does. And you are not cooking on the same stuff. Even if you're using the same pan that they recommend, it's just going to be different. I know they're cooking on gas stoves. I have a gas stove. It has 4 different burners on it. They are 4 different sizes. I was cooking on the 3rd largest. It was obviously hotter than what they were cooking on because my rice kept overcooking. So I figured that out the first time and then started adjusting the recipes to how I was cooking. And your oven can also be off too. You can really see it when you cook a cake. If you cook a cake at 350 and it gets too brown on the outside before the center's done, or if it, by the time it finally gets done cooking and it takes a lot longer than the recipe calls for, it's probably running a little low. And you can actually have your oven calibrated, which is something you might want to look into as we are moving into the holidays. So, all this to say, you need to know yourself and your equipment. You cook all the time. Like, you know, if you're cooking a boneless, skinless 6-ounce chicken breast, or you get the package and it's got those freaky, gigantic Dolly Parton chicken breasts in it, you're going to have to adjust the cooking time. So, next week, speaking of the holidays, I'm going to talk about something fun, whether you are a crock pot fan or a KitchenAid or Cuisinart slow cooker, or you even use your Instant Pot. I'm going to introduce you to a little something called the Crock-Pot Hookup. And no, this isn't an app where appliances swipe right and get their groove on. This is a fun little thing that might just change the entertaining game for you this holiday season. Or speaking of games, the sporting season, if you do a lot of potlucky stuff for that. And I'm going to tell you how to pay a fraction of the price that you're going to find on them at places like Target. That's right, Target. J'accuse. So I hope you found this interesting and entertaining. And for more tips and techniques, how to cook like a personal chef, I will put a link in the description on where you can get my guide that has even more fun stuff in it. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Cheers!